welcome to Circle of Fame. Today we have panel discussion number 6, and the topic which we will discuss today is mental health matters, strategies for resilience and emotional well-being. What a wonderful session we are going to have today, and we have amazing experts who came today with their best intention to share their knowledge, expertise, and their passion with the world to help people who are seeking for this knowledge, who seek for change and transformation in their life. And as already tradition, we will start this panel discussion with briefly introduction of each of the experts who will share their knowledge today with you. And we will start with experts who are first time today with us. And we would like to start with Doug Dane.
My pleasure. I don't have to say my name. My name is Doug Dane. I'm in Canada, and I'm pleased to be on here. I'm an author and speaker, and just here to help in any way I can. So thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Tell a little bit about yourself. You're an author, you mentor. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you do, because you do amazing work, and I know you're shy, and we're here to let people know about you.
Cole's notes. I went through an extreme violence as a child, and of course, anybody that goes through that ends up in real difficulties in all kinds of areas of their life, and end up in all kinds of negative habits and behaviors, causing lots of problems. And it was all blocked out. I went public with that story when it came out, and then I spent the rest of my time since about 2002 trying to figure out how was I able to get through that and thrive, not just survive, but thrive, and let it all go. And of course, people came to me and said, how did you do it? And I couldn't tell you how I did it. So I spent the next 15 years trying to figure out how I did it so I could transfer it to other people. And then I put it in the form of a prescription inside a book.
Yeah, the book Mistaken Identity, which Doug wrote to help millions of people to find their mistaken identity and create the identity that they are aligned with. Yes, it is honor to have you with us, Doug, today. And also, Doug was working with Bob Proctor for 16 or 17 years.
No, about 10, just under 10 years before he
10
passed.
years. Yeah, and I met Doug when I became Procter & Gamble consultant. Yes, and it is really a big pleasure for me to have Doug today. Thank you. So also we have first time today, Chris Pinedella. Would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, nice to meet you. I am Chris Pinedella. I am the CEO of Sales Pulse Medical Trends, Inc., which is a newly formed organization that is both a C Corp and a nonprofit LLC. I am a speaker as well. I speak on the future of medical technology, and I am also a medical device rep for an organization called BioFrontera that works in photodynamic therapy. So I am happy to be here on the stage. In terms of personal journey, I would say that I struggled with mental health on and off since the end of high school. Right around the time of the September 11th attacks, I dealt with losing a lot of friends and family to addiction. And then I dealt with the inevitable catastrophe that was social media, and I found a way out on the other side. So I'm here to tell my journey of how I've thrived in the world after waking up.
Thank you so much. We, of course, will be looking forward to know more about you in our further panel discussions. And also first day with us is Stephen Buscher. Hi, Stephen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So thank you so much for the invitation. I'm always excited to be amongst other people that are dedicated to helping, the world shift to a better insight. And my passion lies in helping people navigate that mental wellness journey, the resilience, the personal growth. And I found that a tool that I could use and learn from was hypnotherapy. So I use that as far as what I learn about the human experience, about the journeys that we all face. And I try to help people have a better life. So thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Stephen. It's great to have you among us today. And Vangelis Kalaguiro, tell us about you.
Hello, everyone. I lived a life that was not my life. I didn't realize it until I was 50 years old that I wasn't living me. And even though I was very successful, I was in the business corporate world for 46 years, lived in all these $1 million homes and had all this life. And and realized it wasn't my life. And so today's topic is very near and dear to me because Doug and Chris, I very much identify with a lot of stuff you were talking about. So I was working with a lot of rocket scientists, people that were just really apprehensive, IT people, engineers that they couldn't really express that they were empty inside. And because I was in the midst of them, they started opening up and becoming vulnerable. So I did a lot of work with the military, a lot of stuff in artificial intelligence. And so I was able to reach people that most people don't even get an opportunity to do. So I just help them realize that there's hope for them to actually change the life that they feel like they're not even living. So that's what I'm doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vangelis. It is a pleasure to have you with us today. Farzin Mazinani.
Hi, so I'm a quantum healer and I help people to drop the loads that they don't need to carry to be able to move forward. I have my own modality, which is called Joyful Fixed Quantum Healing. And so I believe that when we are talking about detox, it is not just physical detox. It is emotional and mental detox that we need to go through just to drop the loads. And a lot of problems come from whatever we carry inside. So I'm happy to just help people to just go through the transformation, because transformation comes from those cleanups.
Thank you. Dr. Annika.
Hello, I'm Dr. Annika Sornason from Sweden. I'm a family practitioner and now also working with stress management in the leadership because they have too much on their plate and overwhelmed, scared to do a bad job and to be seen as bad, and that's scary. So I help them to find a better and easier way to lead and to become a good person for themselves and for the business, and also grow the business. And I also come from a story. You're talking about stories, and I had a tragedy when I started my medical journey. Just when I took my exam, I lost my brother and my first baby in 1 week. So I've been in the deepest hole of stress, and from there I've learned so much from my patients and from my own life, and later on from my clients. So that's why I work with stress management in the leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Annika. And we also have Roxandra.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Roxandra. I am also a stress management coach and a clarity coach, and I work with moms in business. My journey is the other way around. I'm writing a book now, and it's called From Hero to Zero, because my life is kind of the other way around. I started having everything I ever wanted. I'm originally from Romania. I had my successful business when I was 16. It was everything fantastic. And then I moved to England to study at the university. I did everything I ever wanted. I had money, I had businesses, I traveled around the world, I was teaching in orphanages. I really enjoyed the life. And then something happened. And this is when I got into a really deep burnout. This is when depression kicked in. This is when anxiety, panic attacks almost on a daily basis. And I was fighting and fighting and fighting to find answers. And then I was diagnosed with lots of, you can imagine, illnesses, and my muscles couldn't relax anymore. So from there, it was a really long journey to discover who I am again. And especially because, in a way, for me, it was like, I know, I can do lots of things, but it was really difficult. I couldn't move for 3 months. I was literally in a bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't do almost anything. So here I am now, which everything works really nice for me now because I had to go through that journey, learn about mental health, really recover, and now I'm inspiring others as well. But I do work with moms in business more because I find they are really overwhelmed quite a lot, and stress is part of motherhood as well. And yes, I'm here to support and to share my experience and my knowledge. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And Daniel Kobriner.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Daniel Kobriner. I'm French. I live in the UK. And see, I was in international sales and management for over 35 years. And a few years back, I was really questioning about, what was really my purpose there. And I realized, listening to some coaches that actually I've been coaching people all my life, and this is really what I wanted to do. And, like Roxandra, for instance, you talk about, obviously stress and stress management. And I dealt with a lot of people, who had, issues, and I was always trying to motivate people and myself as well. I realized I was not aligned with some of the companies I was working for. So then I decided really to go there and really to help people. And sometimes it's tools, it's not complicated, but when we really listen to people, to listen to their needs, then we are able to help them. And it's why I'm doing this, and I'm very happy to be invited today in this wonderful panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This topic, mental health and resilience, resonate with me so much. I want to share just quickly about myself that I went from being millionaire and making $1 million within 2 years in my previous business, and then losing everything when all my properties were stolen, then till I recovering. The war started in Ukraine, and again I had to leave everything and start from zero in new country, that is UK, where I am now. So this resilience topic is really very close to me, and I'm happy that today we have all these amazing experts who not just sharing information from reading the book or watching training, but everyone here lived that life, lived that experience, and what we will share today, it is a golden nugget. So listen carefully to this our discussion, and I'm sure that you will find so much more, and who you resonate, connect with these people, because every person here is world-class expert, and not just has that knowledge, but has that big heart and passion. And here we are all on mission to make this world a better place, to help people to find themselves, transform their lives, and be really the person who they meant to be, think big, and have beautiful, fulfilled life. And also, I want to introduce our moderator today. Alan Edwards will help me to manage this panel discussion so everyone can have the best experience. Alan, please introduce yourself briefly and let's go.
Thank you, Elena. I'm Alan Edwards. I'm a property investment and development expert. I'm based in Hampshire in the UK. I've got a lot of experience of major projects in the UK and also internationally. And I wrote a book about my experience. It's called The 20 Key Factors of Project Success or Failure. The title is actually Project Deliverance, the 20 Key Factors for Project Success or Failure, as a result of the experiences I've had on many major projects throughout the world. And I'll be touching on some of the relevant points in the discussion about stress today, because, in highly pressurized industries such as the construction industry, there are people who are doing all these activities of pulling together projects, and people who are closest to the sharp end do suffer when it comes to pressure on deadlines and accountability and so on. But let's move on to the first question, shall we?
Yeah.
This is okay. After you.
Yes. So I think that you just read the first question and assign who will speak, Alan.
Okay, very good. Segment 1. This is understanding mental health in a fast-moving world, and the first question is, why is mental health more important than ever in today's world, and how can we recognize when it's time to focus on it? And the first speaker on this question is Chris Pinedella.
Yeah, thank you. So why is mental health more important than ever? I think the answers are all around us, and the answers aren't only one. The answers are both on a macro scale, a personal scale, a micro scale, and a generational scale. Everyone is suffering from a variety of different reasons. The globe right now is at a serious inflection point where right now, for the first time that I can remember, the United States is looked at as an enemy of the world. And that terrifies me. I grew up proud as an American, and I've never been under the flag of an enemy nation. That is terrifying to me. on a personal level, social media is confusing every single person on the planet right now. Artificial intelligence is amplifying false information using bot technology, and we are all arguing with one another over stuff that we don't actually disagree on. Most of us are much closer to the center on everything, and there are where people are using manufactured arguments to get us to not understand one another. And these things are the most dangerous things in the world for our youth and our children, because what we have not realized yet in the digital age, in the new age, is that when people are young, they're very impressionable. It is how we learn. What we learn from a very core young age is what shapes our foundational beliefs in reality. And when we are taught that we can look at a cell phone and that everything is horrible and we instantly know who to blame, there are all bad guys all over the place, and it's really hard to identify who the actual bad people are. So we need to pay attention to where we get our information from, how we get our information, what's the truth, and just go outside a little more often and realize that in nature, in the world, in people, in conversations, and in dialogue, you will find a lot more in common than you have different. And I spent a very long time getting lost in all the misinformation that I found in my cell phone and computers and everywhere else. And in the real world, when you go out there and you just try to talk to human beings, you realize that we're all pretty much the same. Despite, no matter what ideological differences we might have, we have a lot more in common than we have in different. And we need to focus on that, and very soon, very quickly.
Thank you, Chris. How about you, Doug? What have you got to say on this subject?
I love that quote by Confucius, life is simple, but we insist on making it hard. And I think we are insisting on making things way too hard. I think we should go back to a previous time when the mental health system that we currently operate with began, and take a look at where it was broken from the beginning. I don't think we have so many mental health problems. I think we have a problem with our mental health system. And people listen, and everybody's got external problems, I call them. You got problems in your job and your career, your relationships, and then you react to those external problems, and you have internal problems, negative emotions. But the real problem that causes your external problem in terms of the work I do is it's really how you see yourself and how you feel about yourself dictates how you show up and how you view and treat and judge other people. I think the real epidemic is judgment. I think that's our biggest problem. Everybody's judging everybody, and we've got three villains, in my opinion. I think the mental health system is a villain. Social media, of course, as Chris said, is another villain. And the mental health system and the different ways that we go about it, the coaching industry, the self-help world, these Instagram so-called stars, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what we got to do is we got to take a look at what is the actual cause. Everybody's dealing with effects and band-aids. Let's go to the root cause of what's really causing the problem. And I think you can undo this stuff very, very quickly. But to Chris's point, I did a call the other day. I don't think there's very many people that I've met, adults or children, that are qualified to be on these phones, because it's very, very infectious out there right now. You have to have a very strong mindset and a very healthy self-image and a healthy point of view about you and the world, because that's how you approach the world.
Thank you, Doug. How about you, Roxandra? What's your opinion?
Yes, I would say that we are living in a very fast, rapid world. Like, everyone wants everything super quick and right now, even results, even money, either. Like, we don't really stay in the present moment as much. And if we go and see children, they are 7 or 8 years old and they are suffering of depression or anxiety. A child nowadays, it's honestly, it shouldn't be this way. And I strongly believe that that's the reason why even parents, they do go through those struggles. They do struggle quite a lot, and they don't know how to be in the present moment. So then if they are always worrying and thinking about future, then they go into anxiety. If they are worried and really blaming and really, really horrible with what happened in the past, then it's very easy to go into depression. And the present moment is not there. And this is when I feel that, okay, it's time to learn how to ground yourself. It's time to learn how to be present for your child. So then the child is not getting depression and anxiety very early in their journey and in their life.
Thank you, Roxandra. Farzin, what have you got to add on this subject?
So we are living in a fast-moving world. What does it mean? To me, outside world is just the reflection of what we have inside. It means that we are changing. Our consciousness is changing rapidly. So we have something called autonomic nervous system in our body, and it has two branches. One is sympathetic nervous system, and the other one is parasympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic nervous system means that it keeps us on the survival mode. So what is survival mode? It is related to the reptilian mind that we have to survive, and it keeps us on our toes, and it keeps us on fight or flight mode. So the stress hormones are high in our body, and we're all stressed out about things that might or might not happen. So that is the operation of sympathetic nervous system. But we have something else too, which is called parasympathetic nervous system, which is related to being in the moment, being in the rest and digest state, and functioning the way that we should be functioning. And when there is a change, our mind brings the guard up. Our mind starts to fight with the change. Why? Because it's its duty to protect us. So what happens is that we see a lot of change around the world. It means that we have a lot of change inside. It means that our mind is starting to just bring the guard up, starting to prevent us to go through those things and expand. And then what happens is that it triggers something like fight or flight or something to just bring us slow down. And what happens is that we stay in that stress mode for a long time, and we get used to it, and we believe that that is the way of life, but it is not. As we are evolving, we can put our focus on the bigger things. We are not just this physical body or emotions or thoughts. We are beyond all those. So we can connect to the infinite intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. So there's a difference. We have that capacity. And when we discover that capacity in ourselves, that brings us to that state of rest and digest.
Thank you,
we can move forward with joy and ease.
Thank you. We'll move on to question 2. What are some of the early signs of emotional distress, and how can individuals take proactive steps to address them? What's your opinion on this, Vangelis?
Part of some of the early signs is not knowing that you have distress. So what happened with me, my mother and father are Greek. My mother was dating a guy that didn't want children, so the first 2 children that she was pregnant with, he convinced her to abort them. I was the next child, and she decided not to abort me. My father then put me into an orphanage once I was born. But I want to take you back to when I was in that womb. My first experience of life, I didn't know it was stress. I don't have a vocabulary yet. I didn't have any database of experiences of knowledge, but that was life to me. And I'm sure when my mom and dad were talking, it wasn't sitting at a table discussing calmly and, serenely. They were probably arguing, probably fighting a lot. And so that was my experience of life. And then when I was born, put into an orphanage, hey, this is life. I don't know anything else. And then as I was growing up, it didn't really change much, because even though I was in this adopted family, it was a very stressful life. They brought me to church. That was not a positive experience for me. It was just another dictating life of, the joke, if I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. It wasn't a joke. That was how my life was. So once again, okay, this is life. Now, I'm almost 70, so for the first 50 years of my life, that's the way it was. I ended up being in the business technology world for 46 years, and I'm living in a $1.3 million home, and I'm traveling all over the world. People all over know me, and I'm working with all these big time players. And this guy asks me about 20 years ago, he says, well, are you happy? I said, well, what is that? I mean, you're successful, but are you happy? I said, well, I really don't know what you mean. And so inviting me to a seminar like this wasn't going to happen. This is normal since my conception, right? So the way that I actually got out of it was speaking with someone who had been where I was, because they could identify, and they said, "You're probably feeling empty, don't you?" Yeah. Unfulfilled? Yeah. Trapped? Oh, definitely. Because anytime I want to talk about how I feel, everyone around me says, "You should be grateful." Okay, shut me down. People telling me what to do doesn't work for a guy like me. Because again, this is all I've known. And I'm living in $1 million home. You're in a place you can't even afford your rent. And that's how things were for me for so long. But finally, I met somebody that was actually willing to listen to me. It's okay, tell me how you feel. I said, well, this and this and this and this. And after a while, not judging me, not telling me what I should be doing, and letting me actually express all this anger and rage I had. Well, however, it took me a while, it took me years, because I was, again, really deep. And then finally, I am where I am today because I found a couple of people that I met with every day for 7, 8 years and just worked through all of the stuff that was inside me. And so that's why I like this panel here, because every one of us have a particular way that we grew up, and someone out there says, okay, that's me. And that's how you start getting yourself healed. Thanks.
Thank you, Vangelis. How about you, Chris? What would you say about this question?
What he just said resonated with me on so many different levels that I actually have to hear the question again. That felt like he was describing my life in so many ways. So just give me the question one more time.
Okay, yeah. What are some of the early signs of emotional distress, and how can individuals take proactive steps to address them?
Yeah, honestly, I would say for me, the thing that I can only speak from personal experience. I would say extreme preoccupation was my big tell. You know, I was never present in the moment. My brain was always somewhere else. The people who were in the room with me, they weren't my focus. It was always that, as he was referring to, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. I was always in, what might happen or what might not happen mode. All worry, no action. And then, slowly but surely that became worse, and it became not just preoccupation, it became procrastination, and then procrastination becomes stagnation, and then stagnation becomes what I would just call complete deflation, where you don't even want to get out of bed anymore. You don't want to clean up your room. You don't want to go anywhere. And to your point again about growing up I grew up in northern New Jersey, by all effects what would appear to be a wealthy family, a happy family. I've been on some amazing vacations. I've gotten to fly on private jets, and none of that ever made me happy at all. None of it in any way, shape, or form. It made me feel empty, and I always felt bad for the other people who were sitting there waiting and who were miserable. It was very obvious to me that these people were not happy in the jobs that they were doing, and that these were people that would be snide and snickering behind the doors of like, look at these people, who do they think they are? And I was always like, yeah, these people are right. Who do we think we are? And I would always invite people to dine with us and whatever else. And the world has always just seemed very unfair to me. And I think it's just, to answer your question, it's when you get to the point of you just look around and you can't see anything else but the negative, that's when you know something's wrong. Is because I've written about it before. When you go outside and you look and you just smell the salt air from the other by an ocean, or you go and you smell grass again and you pay attention to the sun when it comes out, and you just feel nature and observe beauty and stop paying attention to the digital world and start paying attention to the physical, beautiful, real world, and your whole paradigm, your whole perspective shifts. It's a real paradigm shift. So that's how I would answer that question. When you're seeing yourself distracted from reality, it's time to wake up.
Thank you, Chris. How about you, Roxandra? What do you think on this question?
So early signs of distress, I would say, especially if we talk about emotions, I would say it could actually be a case of seeing, when do you tend to explode? When do you start feeling that you're so irritable? When do you feel like it's enough and you're shouting, or you're just angry or frustrated? Those are the moments when you can actually start saying like, okay, here you go. Something is wrong. Something is happening with me. Or if you have children, it's just so easy to see their behavior, to see the way they feel. If maybe they are, very frightened by something, or they are just sad or angry, or they are just doing misbehaving in general. Then again, that might be a sign that something emotionally it's happening in their world. And it's really, really important to go and talk on their level, and even with yourself, and identify what's causing you that state. Like, for example, for me, after years and years of working and understanding, where I am and what's causing me to feel horrible and miserable, it was a case of feeling hungry or not having proper sleep. And obviously, I had no idea how important it is to sleep, like literally to sleep, like especially I have 2 under 2. So with breastfeeding and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, sleep is so important. So those basic things, or even the need of water, you need to stay hydrated. Those are basic needs that we all have. And if those are not fulfilled, then guess what? Emotionally, yes, you can start being, not aligned. And this is when you show up as not a very nice and kind person. So this is my input, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Roxandra. We're going to move on to segment 2 now, which is cultivating emotional well-being. So the next question is, what are the key daily practices that can help enhance emotional well-being? What's your opinion on this, Dr. Annika?
Yes, and I usually do practical things, so I'm still going to talk about practical things. And some of the daily practices, among other things, to enhance emotional well-being are taking short breaks often and daily 30-minute walks. And the short breaks, they can just be like stretching, do something like that, or go get a glass of water, rehydrate. You talked about right now, or taking a few deep breaths, because in these moments your brain will have a rest and you can adjust to clear thinking again. And stress hormones go down when you take that break, and you will feel well and be more effective. The 30-minute walks are also a way to restore your brain, because you can think clearly while you use your muscles. So when you're doing things with your body, your brain is getting more straightened up again. And that's a gift from the evolution to help us to fight the animals on the savannah back then in the best way. So we could actually run to safety and not just run randomly, or to, if we needed to fight with the animals, to do the right things with your muscles, thinking, how can I do this? So you'd not be eaten.
Okay.
And today we have other challenges, but we reset the brain by moving. It also gives us fresh air when we walk outside, and maybe a glimpse of natural light too. And the 30-minute walks are today the first pill for light to medium depression to be tested before you even think about pills. That's what I order when I'm a doctor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Annika. How about you, Daniel Kobriner? What have you got to say on this question?
Well, on top of what Dr. Annika was saying, one thing which is quite useful is to start with the day with daily routines. And for everybody, it can mean different things. For instance, it can be practicing gratitude, being grateful for 3 things we're really grateful for. Starting doing some journaling. Or it could be as well, for instance, doing some meditation. Very often, it's people like as well practicing some exercises. For instance, okay, we talked about walking, but in the morning, it could be some stretching, it could be some exercises. And one very important point is to try to distance oneself from phones and social media, just to take some time for oneself, relax. And the last point I would say, and it was mentioned before, I think by Roxandra, is really sleep. Sleep is so important, because this is really where we reconnect. This is where we recharge our batteries. And this is what enables us to be more energetic for the next day.
Thank you, Daniel. Farzin, would you like to add anything on this question?
One of the things that helped me a lot is deep breathing. The reason is that, we have some subconscious processes in our body, like digestion, like the heartbeat that we have, or whatever. And they are very complicated if you think about it. For example, the digestion system, nobody can replicate that because it's so complicated. We put a lot of things, a mixture of different things in our body, and then it starts to separate the good things from the bad. And so it is very hard to just even imagine operating in that level. Nobody can make something like that. But it is part of our system. So everything is automatic on the background. The only thing that is automatic and part of subconscious, but we have control on, is breathing. That is the only exception. So when we have stressful situation, when we are not in a good mood or something like that, we have grief or whatever, we usually have those shallow breathing, and it is part of it. But we can reverse it by changing the way that we breathe. So if we start changing the rhythms and consciously start breathing deeply, things start to shift. And there are some specific instructions on the ways that we can breathe. For example, you might be familiar with 4, 7, 8 breathing. So for 4 counts, you breathe in. For 7 counts, you hold your breath. And for 8 counts, you just breathe out. And then try it. When you try it, after 3 or 4 breathing, you feel calm. And then it switches from that sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system. So that is the key. You just turn on that switch, it switches everything for you.
Very good. Thank you, Farzin. We'll move on to the next question now. How can someone maintain emotional balance in times of uncertainty or stress? What do you think about this, Doug?
I think what we've got to do, there was a great quote by Alvin Toffler. I think he's a futurist. He said the illiterate of the 21st century won't be people that can't read or write, but it'll be the people that can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so we have to, there's a lot of stuff we have to unlearn, really. I mean, everything we're talking about here, everything that you see, everything you read is primarily people's viewpoints. I mean, I love what Farzin said. I mean, the one thing we have control over is breath. That's a fact. And so there's we have a lot of information about how we approach this. And there's all kinds of modalities, all kinds of suggestions, there are all kinds of things you can do. But I think what we got to do is we got to unlearn and relearn and learn why are we operating the way we're operating. It's all learned. All your negative emotions primarily are results of the past, or they're a result of how you were taught to judge and react to certain things. I mean, the fact is, any one of us can get to a place of equanimity. There's a great essay by Troward, Serenity. I think it was Troward or William James Allen. Maybe I'm getting him wrong, but in that little essay, it said the idea of calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom, and it's a result of long and patient effort and self-control. Meaning, you have to understand, how do you control your mind and your thinking? Because it's your thinking that causes all your emotions. And so if you're having emotional problems, I mean, listen, it's difficult there for a lot of people. I struggled my whole life. It took me a long time to figure out, why was I so stressed out? Why was I so anxious? Why was I so depressed? And then I found out, it was so exciting, and it pissed me off at the same time, when somebody told me that I was causing my anxiety and I was causing my mental health problems. Now, you tell that to somebody that's struggling, they're going to have a hard time with that. But that is a fact. So I think, really, I just tell people, live in the middle. And if you can train yourself, and you can, anybody can learn, it's not simple or it's not complicated, it doesn't take very long. If you can train yourself to stop thinking about the past, stop talking about the past, stop bringing up the past, stop looking at the past as a reference as to what's going wrong. And then if you can train yourself to not think too far in the future, you should keep an eye on where you want to go. You should always be picturing what you want, your life to look like, your career to look like, your emotions to look like. You always want to have a viewpoint on your life, but you're not allowed to sit down and try to figure out how you're going to get there. And we were taught that you better plan ahead. You better think ahead. You better figure this out. You better get somebody's opinion. You better go online and watch a video. You better take a course to figure out how are you going to get ahead. Well, you don't control Mother Nature. Okay, you don't control the seas. You can be the helm of be the captain of the ship and maintain the helm and keep an eye on where you want to go. And so a lot of people are causing their own anxiety, because all anxiety is, when you break it right down, all it is that you're worried about the future for some reason or another. And so you can train yourself, go, I don't need to be thinking about next week or next month. Because reality is I might not be here next week and next month. So why the hell am I worrying about something I can't even control anyway, that I might not even be there down the road, or I think I'm going to go down this road and I end up down this road. And if you let go of the past and you stop trying to think about the future and figure it out, you land in the middle. I heard this idea, live in the moment, one day at a time. Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. What a bunch of crap, I thought when I heard that. And I realized it was so hard to live one day at a time until I figured out all you have to do is train yourself not to think about the past and train yourself not to think about the future. And then you land in the middle. And that's where you operate. I try to operate literally 1 or 2 hours at a time. If something comes to my mind, I go, do I need to be thinking about this? And if the answer is no, then I just turn my mind back to where I'm at.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doug. Farzin, would you like to add anything on this?
Sure. So the key for me is acceptance, because in order to keep the balance for our emotions and thoughts and stuff like that, there are 2 ways to deal with it. One is just rejecting. So whatever comes that we don't like, the first response is rejecting it. But that is the automatic response that we have. But we can do better. So what is the better way? The better way is, instead of judging the behavior that we had, that we snap on something simple or something like that. So instead of reacting, or instead of keeping that loop and continuing with blaming ourselves for the things that we don't like about ourselves, we can use them. How? It's very simple. There is a reason that we had that experience, and it was teaching us something. So there is a lesson and there is a shell. So imagine that I go to the market and buy something for my kitchen, for example, a mixer. And then I start unpacking it. I start using the mixer, and I say that I'm going to keep that box in the basement just in case I want to move in the future or something like that. So the mixer is gone after a year. A few years pass, but I'm still keeping that box in the basement. So I go to the basement, and my basement is full of those boxes that I don't need anymore. So there is a shell, and there's a good thing that is inside the shell. So all those things, for example, stress and anxiety or whatever I experience on a daily basis, instead of just rejecting it, I take the good thing out of it. It is teaching me something. It is showing me the right direction that I have to go. It's like a sign on the road. So when I start accepting it instead of rejecting it, then I can leave the rest out, whatever that is not necessary. I don't need to hold on to it, because there is a concept called trapped emotions. Trapped emotions happen when I experience an emotion and I hold on to it. Somebody cut me off in the traffic, I start yelling, and I start go home and talk to my wife and others about the crazy drivers on the road and stuff. So it is an unfinished process. And my body stores that unfinished process somewhere in one of the organs that I have. So it is called trapped emotions. So if we be able to finish that process, we don't need to hold on to it. It's not going to get trapped in our body. So we have to learn to, when it comes, we just accept it.
Okay, thank you.
Analyze it and let it go.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question now. What are some simple yet powerful habits people can adopt to feel more grounded and at peace? What's your opinion on this one, Vangelis?
Today, I do grounding when I'm inspired and prompted by my soul, but it's a little bit different because I'm actually involved in it. I'm immersed in it. It's not just a list of tasks to perform. And this was so difficult, years ago, because again, the environment I grew up in, energy and vibration and frequency was evil. Even feelings were evil. So for those of you that can get to the point where you start realizing, all right, and you can go to a different level of awareness, which is what I had to do, you can get into this. So I'll just take you through a couple of things that I do when I ground. It's really important for me to cut any energy that is not mine away. So like all the text messages, all the emails, all the conversations, anyone I spoke with, I have to just, with an intention, constantly cut those. And then I actually visualize my grounding cord from my tailbone to the center of the earth. And I make the intention that I'm going to take any toxic energy, any type of non-serving ideas, going to go down there. And just like plants take what we breathe out and transmute it to oxygen, the earth takes what we send it and transmutes it to beautiful energy for us. And then I actually pull in energy from the cosmos somewhere, and I just activate every single cell in my body. And I just actually visualize it, just like in the movie The Matrix, where you could see that thing just coming down the body and just visualize it. And so what that helps me do is now I'm in a place where if I see anyone's energy that's not mine, I just send it right back to them. And I do this whenever I'm inspired to do this. It could be 2 times a day, it could be once a day. But what it has allowed me to do is now I can access portals on different dimensions, all the way up to the 9th dimension. Things that I'm doing today wasn't even a thought or possibility years ago. So again, just to realize you've got all these energy centers in you, my chakras, there's 32 of them, 7 of your primary, and then the rest are organs and different parts. And so I just visualize all that. And you can get some books if you're not sure of what all this means, because, just to understand how all that works, and just do that daily practice, and you will see a tremendous difference. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Vangelis. What we're going to do is move on to segment 3 now, which is stress management strategies. Stress is a natural part of life, but how can we manage it in a way that doesn't negatively impact our health? What's your opinion on this one, Doug?
Simplify, simplify, simplify. Start out your day slow, very, very slow. One mentor of mine said, Doug, we're human beings, we're not human doings. Another person said, most things get done through neglect. You think you got to do all these things when you don't. So I think you got to start out the morning slow. And, obviously it's great. I think you just got to keep the simple steps, get some fresh air, go for a walk, get a good night's sleep. Just practice, as I said, just focusing on right now and what you're supposed to be focusing on. I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding around how their mind actually operates. So we are goal seeking by nature. We're always seeking and pursuing. And in the absence of providing your mind with something to focus on, you could be all over the place. And so I think if you do have something that's important to you, that's you're focusing on, then you don't get as distracted as much. We're talking about distractions a lot, right? Attention fragmentation, cognitive dissonance, all these terms they throw around. And if you're focused and you're really intentional about what you're focusing on, like Vangelis in terms of just focusing on what he was visualizing, whatever you do. But if you have focus, everybody goes, I don't need focus, I don't need discipline. Well, because you don't have anything to focus on. But if you focus on something that's important to you, that's important to make the world better, to make your world better, if you wake up with some purpose, stop trying to find your calling and your purpose. You'll spend the whole life looking for it. If you start paying attention and stop thinking so much, you'll probably bump into it, and you'll know what you're supposed to be doing with the rest of this life that you have. It's simple. I think honestly, I've got a book, but I think we got to get rid of all the books. I think we got to stop watching all the videos. I think we got to stop confusing ourselves. And if you do all these things that people tell you not to do, that we're trying to help you with here, if you keep on doing it, then that's on you. You choose to confuse yourself.
Okay.
Confusion leads to frustration and anxiety and all the rest. So just simplify.
Keep it simple. Okay, thank you very much. What we're going to do is move on to the next question now. Can you share techniques for reducing stress in the workplace or in high pressure environments? Dr. Annika, what's your opinion on this one?
Let's see here. If you have high pressure environment with too much to do and short notice on things, then most people in the workplace think that they should work faster and without breaks and eat lunch while they're working and so on. But that will only help the stress to wind up. Now, I want to introduce Swedish fika. It's a short communal break in the morning hours and one in the afternoon in the workplace, 10-15 minutes together, coffee or tea, maybe a sandwich, a cake in the afternoon. talking about whatever private things. And most often you can also meet someone you needed to go to for whatever reason in your work, and you find them here, and then you connect and can talk about the questions you needed. And the same principle for lunch, same hours in the same place, so you meet. And these breaks will make you more relaxed, and will make you be clearer in your work when you get back to your workplace, because of your brain had that break. And that means that you will become more efficient. And these breaks are the essence of stress management, and doing it together enhances your health.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to question 8. It's actually, how does mindfulness and meditation contribute to effective stress management, and how can people incorporate these practices into their daily routine? Daniel Kobriner, would you like to answer this one?
Yes, sure. So obviously, stress, it's not what happens to us. Basically, it's really how we respond to us. So when we practice, mindfulness and meditation, what happens? It helps us to get calmer, to get more focused, to are more in control, and it's independent from what life is throwing at us. So for me, and I used to be a big overthinker, what Doug described before in terms of overthinking, in terms of, I was perfectionist. I was worried about the future, but I realized that it was a lot of waste of time and energy. And now, so in order to break this cycle, it's really, how to take small steps. Talked about breathing. You talk about meditation. All this, when we do that consciously and we decide to really live in the present moment, this is what makes a difference.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. We're going to move on to segment 4 now, which is building resilience. So the next question, number 9, is what is resilience and why is it so critical in achieving personal growth and success? Roxandra, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, so resilience is really important. It's a case of how do you move from a setback. So if something happens to you, if you have a problem, you have a struggle, how do you move forward? Do you let that problem to crush you, or actually you have some tools and strategies in place to move and go past that problem? So I would say that the first thing would be stop complaining and stop victimizing. That's the first step, I would say. Once you start doing that, then instead of focusing on the problems that you have, automatically your brain will start looking for the solutions for that problem. So I would say that's probably one of the most important things.
Okay, thank you, Roxandra. We're going to move on to the next question, which is, can you share a personal story where resilience played a key role in overcoming a challenge? What do you think, Stephen Buscher?
So I think there's the stories that we tell ourselves are integrated into our own life, and many times we're telling ourselves a story that we're not good enough, or we're comparing ourselves to someone else. And I think it's those stories that once we become aware of how powerful our own narrative is, I think that can be used as a stepping stone, as a place of knowledge that we can actually embrace growth in our own life. So the moment that we shift the way that we deal with ourselves, right? So a lot of times, many people will have a very critical self-dialogue. They'll have self-judgment. They'll be putting so much pressure on themselves to perform that also, it creates this aura around them, and it affects the people around them. So what I found is the best leaders in the world, the people that have had the greatest impact, are often the people that are the best people persons. They connect with other people. They're interested in other people. And there's this beautiful thing that happens is once you grow in this area of self-awareness, you realize that we don't really need to do anything to be significant, right? So if you embrace that idea, you don't have to do anything for anyone else. You can step into the arena as a learner, right? To not know the answer. And there's a beautiful thing that happens when we don't know the answer. We actually learn from those that are in our circle. We become more than if we walked into the space with the answer. So when we're talking about, mental wellness and connection and all of this, I do believe that we're seeking to be our authentic self. We're seeking a place of security and safety where we can simply be who we are. And I do also believe that we have these things called self-judgment. When judgment happens, I think we have a biological response that says, I don't like that. This is something to warn about, right? It triggers all the amygdala and all of the chemical responses because we want this long-term safety. We want this long-term, experience. And so if we're talking about resilience, things will happen where we will, drop back and we will be triggered by someone else. Something will happen and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we realize it, if we recognize it, right, and grow from it, then I think every time that we have an experience like that, we're leveling up. And not only are we leveling up, but we're modeling that for those around us. So I think it has a great impact on the world. So for me, this whole idea about having a better life, mental health, it's all about having the maximal quality of life. And if we can figure out what that is for us, right, that includes our physical health, it includes our emotional health, it includes having a sense of purpose, all of that. If we can tie into that, I think we can make a better world, not only for ourselves, but for everyone else.
Thank you, Steve. We're going to move on to the next question now, which is, how can someone build resilience, especially when facing personal or professional setbacks? Elena, what's your answer to this one?
This all starts with attitude. Yeah, so for me, especially, it helped when I understood that I can embrace the challenges, and every challenge has something good. And I trained my mind to look for good in every problem, every situation that I don't like. I don't even consider it as a problem anymore. After I shifted my mind, I just automatically look what is good in this. And also what helped me is the storytell about who knows, is it good or is it bad? And when I looked back, the biggest challenges in my life were very good because even the situation when I lost all the property, which was about $500,000, 3 houses, car, everything was stolen. And of course, that time it was just what can be worse. But when I look now to that situation, I am grateful to those people because that situation became the reason of my awakening. I woke up and I totally changed trajectory of my life. And this is how I started looking for personal growth, personal development. I found Bob Proctor at the time, and that exact situation became a blessing because if it didn't happen, now I would not be here with you today. So I think that attitude and yes, this exactly embracing challenges and understanding that everything happens for me. Everything happens for me. And also ability not to react, just to stay cool and be above of these physical things. Look at things from side and see this is what happened. What is the lesson? What is the lesson for me? Something in me caused this situation because everything is cause and effect, and everything what happens in our life, we know it is effect and I am cause. So when I started to understand that I am the cause of everything what happens for me, and I took that responsibility to find what is the lesson, how I can be better, what I can do to not repeat the same mistakes. And this is the change of in attitude helped me to grow and look at things and helped me to raise my awareness, raise my consciousness. So now I don't look at things as problems. I look at things as tasks which I have to solve, and I just see what is in priority and I solve one at a time.
Thank you, Elena. I'm going to move on to the next question now, which is, what are some mental exercises or mindset shifts that can help strengthen resilience over time? Daniel, what do you think about this question?
Well, the first one is to reframe challenges and to consider them as growth opportunities. It's really the way we look at things which matters. And afterwards, it's as well practice gratitude. And when we do that, we shift our perspective. Basically, when we appreciate everything we've got in our life, we look at things much more positively of people, of situations, like Elena was saying before. And the last point I would say, it's really, how do we strengthen our dialogue with ourselves? How do we speak to ourselves? This word matters. all words have vibrations, thought have vibrations. So if we start practicing with us kindness, if we forgive to ourselves as well, this is how we are going to be kind with others and to forgive others and to accept people the way they are.
Thank you, Daniel. We're going to move on to segment 5 now, which is supporting mental health for long-term well-being. The question is, how can individuals support their long-term mental health even during difficult seasons of life? Roxandra, what do you think about this question?
I strongly believe that we really need to step into who we truly are. So if we really want to have long-term, happiness, fulfillment and everything, probably is the time to really ask yourself, who do you want to become, or what sort of things do you really want to do in your life? Because so many times we don't even understand who we are. We do know what we have to do, but we don't do, things because we don't want to disappoint others. We don't want to, we are a people pleaser. It's very hard for some of us to say no. Even if you know you don't want to do it, you just do it because you want to please others. So I think that it's also a case of taking action. We are just so good in finding excuses and not doing the right thing just because we complicate things. So just keep it simple, baby steps, take action and don't wait for the perfect time because the perfect time is not coming. Just do it. And I think that will change.
Thank you, Roxandra. I'm going to move on to the next question now, which is, what role does self-compassion play in mental well-being and how can people practice it? Elena, would you like to answer this one?
Self-compassion plays a magnificent role because we can be, instead of judge ourselves, we can use our sage energy and shift our focus to appreciate what we already did well. Yes, and instead of judging or being also high achiever, we have a lot of different saboteurs which dwell in our left brain. And when we move to sage energy, we become more focused on positive things. Because if we go judging ourselves and think why we didn't do that and how we can do it better, it will not give us good results. It will lead to exhaustion, anxiety, stress. So every time when we feel that something goes wrong, it is always good to shift to the brain, to right brain, and instead of being in left brain, which is analytical mind and all those thoughts and so many different thoughts, like 500 thoughts we have every day, we go to sage energy and we can think about some sensation or some, again, as some of you already mentioned, focus on the breath and come from that brain to another right one and be grateful for who we are, what we do, and come from that place, and it will be more effective and productive in results.
Thank you, Elena. I'm going to move on to our final question now, which is, what advice do you have for those who want to help others manage their mental health and build resilience? Farzin, what do you think of this?
Okay, so in order to help others to manage their emotions and resilience and so on, so the way we can help them is that we help them to differentiate between two major things. There are things that we have control on, and there are things that we don't have control on. So on the outside world, there are a lot of things that happens and makes us mad. Weather changes and political system changes and stuff, and then we start reacting and stuff, but we don't have control on a lot of those things. So if there is something that we don't have control on, just drop it. We don't need to even think about it because we can't do anything about it. Why bother? So there are things that we have control on, like our mood or something like that. So what about those? That is the way we can do it. We have to take full responsibility, 100% responsibility on those. Why? Because if I have 99% responsibility on something, it is out of my control. It is out of my hand. Somebody else can affect it. So I have to have full control on the things that I can do something about. So I take 100% responsibility. I do my best, but the key is here. I leave the rest because I cannot figure everything.
Okay.
Because my mind is limited. I cannot figure everything out. So I have to
Sure.
leave the rest. Leave whatever happens, I just keep myself open to the outcome.
Thank you, Farzin. Roxandra, what's your opinion on this one?
I would say that we should start celebrating our success, and we should start actually really celebrating everything we do right, everything that happens to us, and ring the bell. You know, in sales, they do ring the bell when they accomplish something. Let's do that more. Once you do that more, this is how everything changes, because your energy changes and you start looking for the positive things that you have in your mind, in your life, and your mind is starting being happy as well because you achieve. We are all achievers, and the majority of us, we want more and more and more and more. But let's focus on what have you achieved so far. You know, people do usually do those big posters, and they really think about what's the next thing to do. Let's have a look at what have we achieved so far and just celebrate your success on the way.
Very good. Thank you, Roxandra. Elena, over to you. That's all the questions complete, and our panel's opinions on the various questions.
Yes, it was a great panel discussion, and I really enjoyed to be part of it and hear all of you sharing. So let's finalize this panel discussion, and every one of us can share one thing that resonated with you today. What you learned from other speakers. Who would like to share?
Can I just start with one small pushback on Farzin, just a tiny one? You know, the one thing I come up against is this whole notion of you can't change the world on your own. And I'm asking this question very seriously. Why not? Why can't you? I have never come across anybody who's been able to answer that question properly. And if you could start something, if you could just get enough people to open up to your system of beliefs, I mean, people have done this throughout history all the time. You know, you just have to start with a question, with an idea, and verbalize it. Once you verbalize an idea and you bring it to the universe, you really can change the world all on your own just by verbalizing something out loud. So I just want to give a little bit of a pushback on what you're saying there. And, you know, especially when it comes to political systems and everything around the world, every great change around the world that's happened politically is because people have just spoken up and said, we've had enough. And when there's enough people that stand up together at the same time and say, no, BS, we don't want this anymore, there's nothing they can do. Sorry, game over. And if I'm just going to say, from a standpoint of where the world is right now, I've had enough. And I think it's time for a change. And so I just want to say that what I've taken away from the panel, what I've taken away from everybody here on stage is that the big takeaway for me is you have to know yourself first, right? Know yourself. Know your own limitations. Know, to pick up on what Doug was saying, you know, focus on whatever your middle ground is. And for me, you know, you might not be a futurist. I am one. So I plan for more than just the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I plan for the next 50, 200 years. But that doesn't mean I don't recognize that there should be, everybody's got their role. Everybody should plan for what they're excellent at. And if you're excellent at planning for the short term, plan for the short term and serve your role, recognize what your role is and be okay in your role. Just know that your role is just as important as everybody else's. There is no superior role at all. And if we could all just come together and figure out ways to pick one another up rather than trying to push one another down all the time, there's no reason to be suffering with mental health either. So that's my big takeaway from this whole panel is I connected with some people that have gone through the same fire I have and come out the other side, and I'm proud of all of you. So amazing job.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Who is the next who would like to share takeaways from this panel discussion? Alan?
Yeah, just not to dwell on the past. The future starts here. So you can change the future by what you think and what you do.
Thank you. Dr. Annika?
I would say one of the big things is keep it simple, because the system in itself is simple if you know how it works. And if you go back to how it works and learn the real bottom of it, then it's much easier to do changes and not get lost in all those things that the world is trying to sell us to solve this problem with gadgets and stuff and things and so on.
Thank you. Who else?
For me, the the takeaway is that, I'm really inspired when you come across other people that are also in this area of helping, that have faced difficulties in life and overcome, or, have examined life and come away with a takeaway. And my biggest takeaway for the world is that we are more powerful than we realize. And that once we can make that shift internally, then we can take that out to the world and help them. And I think the biggest thing that we can give to people is hope. Hope that your matter, what you do makes a difference, that it matters. Hope for people that what they see is missing is something that they can create themselves. And I think if we do all those things, we'll not only combat the mental health crisis, but we'll empower people that they can make a difference in this world. So that's all I got.
Yeah, this is why we are here. Yeah, this is the mission of the Circle of Fame, to unite the visionaries and inspire the growth. And Vangelis?
Yeah, the idea of, I've heard a couple of people say this, was the self-acceptance. That was so difficult for me because I grew up with the idea that it's external acceptance. You have to be accepted by this person, by this entity, by God, by your family, by your teachers, by and so you were never ever able to look inside. And then when I finally had the realization, I don't have to do anything to become who I am. And I have this image of Michelangelo. They said, well, how did you carve this statue of David? I just removed everything that wasn't David. And that's what has helped me on my journey, is all I'm doing now is just removing everything that is not me.
Wonderful. Yeah. Roxandra, what is your takeaway?
Yes, my takeaway is that you can design your own life. And everyone who was here tonight, I have to say thank you, because your stories are really powerful. And I learned tonight that actually you have the choice, and now you have the tools, because today was incredible. You can actually do that. If you really want to change, if you had enough of the way you lived until now, then just go for it. Take an action, baby steps, very simple, and start designing and creating your own reality.
Thank you, Roxandra. Farzin?
Yeah, my takeaway is to put my focus on what I'm producing on every moment, because every moment I'm either polluting or purifying whatever that is around me. So it's moment by moment, and the beauty of it is whatever I'm sending out, I'm getting the same thing. So it is flowing through me. So if I send out love message to whatever that is around me, I get filled with that love. And that flow of love creates something that cleans up all the crap that I have inside. The same thing. If I am sitting here and I start judging others, and I'm start focusing on the negative things, I'm sending out that negative energy. What I receive is the negative energy back. So the negative energy is flowing through me. Then I'm polluting whatever that is around me. So for what Chris said, it is important to know where we start from. We cannot start from outside. We can start from inside, because that is the closest thing that we have. If we need to see the change in the world, we have to be the change first. So it starts from ourselves. Then we can see the effect. We can be the cause. We can consider ourselves as the light to the world, and then see what happens. When those lights start to shine, we can just illuminate the whole world.
Thank you, Farzin. Thank you. Daniel?
Well, it was a beautiful panel. And you see, what I take from that is that we've got to live our passions. We've got to give to the world. We've got to be our fully authentic selves. Like Vangelis say, we've got to remove the layers, be who we are. And then when we do this, and when we are kind to people, and when we are grateful, this is when we are going to inspire others, and we are going to uplift this world with some smiles, which is so much needed.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's smile more and help other people smile. Doug?
Wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to get together on these panels and have these differing conversations and differing viewpoints? I think just the theme for me really is it always stands out for me naturally. You're attracted to what resonates. And I think the fundamental problem we have is people are trying to be somebody they're not. It's very difficult to be yourself when you don't know yourself, but it is actually quite a simple process to get to know yourself, who you are and who you're not. The world postulates the idea you can be anything you want, and that's not true. And so if you start out life that way with a real confusion and real negative emotions, maybe because of your experience, it's no wonder people are feeling the way they're feeling. It's no wonder that you're lost or dealing with problems. And the answer to all your question, you just got to go far enough back in time. You have to dredge up your past, but just go back far enough in time and figure out who you are, and where you got off track or who led you astray. And then you know yourself, and all of a sudden you can relax because you like yourself. And then you can fall in love with yourself. And then you can be yourself. And when you do those three things, then life is just so much easier, and you don't have to be a villain. You don't have to be a victim, and I don't know. The last thing I just leave people with is whoever you listen to here, whatever resonates, just if it resonates with you and it feels good, then for you it must be true. Okay, but we do have to be discerning. We do have to ask questions. We shouldn't just accept don't accept what I say. But if it resonates with you, then I think that's a good path for you to follow. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. We spoke today about mental health, and also, of course, it is about physical health, emotional health. And I got inspired today to meet you all in our future panel discussion when we want to speak about spiritual health, because I think that spiritual health is a very significant part of mental health, and we didn't speak about this yet. So it will be great topic of our further panel discussions. Thank you so much who participated today. You really shared so much wisdom, knowledge, and those people who listen to us, you can listen to this panel discussion a few times, connect with experts, learn more how you can work with them. And if you are also a coach or consultant or expert in your field, join our Circle of Fame, because here we have big mission to shine the world with our knowledge and help you to be seen and heard, and also help you to transform millions of people's life like we aim to do. Thank you again, and see you in the next panel discussion.